Greed and fear are the two powerful emotions that usually influence our decisions without us even realizing it. Whatever is making financial choices, career paths, or even personal life decisions. These emotions can cloud our judgment, pushing us to act irrationally or impulsively. Fear, making us overly cautious or paralyzed in the face of opportunity, while greed urges us to chase more, usually at the expense of our well-being. In this video, we'll dive deep into how greed and fear influence our choices and what harm it can cause. But more importantly, we will explore practical strategies to recognize and manage these emotions, so they don't control your life. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you will have tools to make decisions with clarity, balance, and confidence. Greed. Greed can sweep off your feet if you're not careful. It is an emotion that can blind us, leading us to make decisions that aren't in our best interest. Most of the people faces this psychological factor in one way or another. Being greedy means you want more and more of something, especially money and power. The definition of greed would sound intense and selfish desire of something, especially wealth, power, or food. Pretty much all says the same. People want more and more of something, and consequences might be dramatic in some cases. If you think you're not greedy like everyone else, believe me, you are. We are all humans, and it is encoded in our genes. No matter what we got of something, we always want more. We're always looking for more things. You might be not that greedy, but when you face wealth, money, and power, it will appear in your behavior. We all know examples of how wealth and power change people. These situations give a glimpse of the true side of a people. So track your behavior, catch yourself at greedy periods, do not damage your personality, relationships, just because you were greedy. If you struggle with greed, or you think it damages your personal life, then you must learn to overcome it. With the right tools and mindset, we can resist its pull and stay grounded. There are 6 effective strategies that can and will help you to keep the power of greed in check. First, recognize your triggers. Recognizing the triggers that spark greed involves a deep understanding of your emotional and psychological responses. Self-awareness is the first step towards making choices that align with our core values instead. Once we are aware of our triggers, we can start to manage our reactions to them. Remember, knowledge is power. It's not about denying ourselves the desire for better things. It's about understanding when that desire tips over into unhealthy greed and learning to navigate that balance. Understand the impact of greed. Greed can cause significant harm in various areas of life, starting from personal harm, relationships, social harm, and ending you into a global outlook. When we are blinded by greed, relationships can be strained, loss of trust, communities can be divided, and the environment can be harmed. When we remind ourselves of this larger picture, it becomes easier to keep our own greed in check. Addressing and managing greed is essential for personal well-being and for creating a world we want to leave behind for future generations. Practice gratitude. Powerful tool to greed is gratitude. When you take time to appreciate what you already have, the desire for more naturally subsides. Practicing gratitude doesn't mean settling for less. It's about recognizing and appreciating what's already in our lives. Generosity has a strange way of freeing us from grip of greed. It teaches us that there is more joy in giving than receiving. Be realistic. Being realistic can help overcome greed because it encourages a more balanced and rational perspective on what's truly needed and what is achievable. When you're realistic, you set goals based on your actual needs and circumstances, rather than chasing unattainable desires. This helps you focus on what's truly important, rather than endlessly striving for more. A realistic perspective forces you to confront the potential negative consequences of greedy behavior, strained relationships, ethical compromises, or emotional stress. By acknowledging this, you may be less likely to let greed take over. Cultivate contentment. To cultivate contentment means to actively develop a mindset of satisfaction and peace within our present circumstances, rather than constantly seeking for more. It's about fostering a sense of fulfillment and reducing the desire for excess. Cultivate contentment can involve simple practices like mindfulness or meditation, spending time in nature, or doing things we love. This doesn't mean you stop striving for better, but it does mean we can enjoy our journey without being consumed by an insatiable desire for more. Seek balance. Achieving a balance in life is essential for reducing stress and for a fight with greed, where various aspects of life, such as work, relationships, health, and personal growth, are harmonized and prioritized in a way that promotes overall happiness and fulfillment. To achieve balance in our life is not always an easy task. You must know your priorities, Identify key areas of life, establish boundaries, and engage in meaningful activities. Remember, a balanced life is usually a happier and more fulfilling one. Greed is a complex emotion that can be both driving force for ambition and destructive force that leads to discontentment and unhappiness. The power to overcome greed lies with us. It's an internal journey of self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-improvement. Fear. After dealing with greed, especially if it teaches you a valuable lesson, might come another psychological factor. Fear. Fear can hold you back in the face of opportunities and keep you stuck in a position you don't want to be in, but don't have strength or will to change something. Fear is tough to overcome and takes time. Depends how well you are able to deal with it. Psychological factor of fear does not always come after greed. It might be just your personality. You are too suspicious, and that is what makes you to lose a lot of opportunities. Being suspicious is not a bad thing. It is always good to analyze possible scenarios that might come, but in a healthy way. Do not feed fear with worried thoughts. Your fear feeds off worried or negative thoughts about the things that might go wrong, which is why it is important to not feed into them. Paying too much attention to these kinds of negative thoughts can make your fear grow bigger and stronger. Reclaim this power by refocusing your attention on the right things to do, and plans toward achieving your goals. Your biggest fear might be risk to lose. What if I fail? But it doesn't mean that you have to focus on thoughts about failing. Every day, we all naturally evaluate and aim to minimize the danger to ourselves and others in a wide range of situations. You need to learn basic risk management principles so you can apply these guidelines to any life situation. Firstly, risk identification. For example, think about driving a car. You might identify the risk of having an accident due to the poor maintenance of a car, failure to keep the gas in the tank, speeding, or driving under the influence. Another identified risk may be the possibility of damaging the property, either the car itself or someone else's property. There is also a risk of financial loss, if a proper liability insurance is not in place, or if a driver gets a speeding ticket, and so forth. Second, risk analysis. This stage involves gathering data and considering the meaning of a data points over a span of time, which is statistic. An analysis of identified risks begs one to ask, how often could this adverse event happen, frequency, and what is the worst case scenario? Third, risk control. Risk control offers opportunities to implement solutions that supports risk avoidance, prevention, and reduction. Risk prevention aims to reduce the frequency or likelihood of the event or loss. This can involve developing strategies to reduce or eliminate the impact of risks. This can involve implementing controls, diversifying investments, or taking out insurance. Fourth, risk financing. This fourth principle focuses on the economics of risk. Risk financing is a way to cover any financial losses that the implemented risk control techniques did not prevent from happening. It is always positive to keep some finances in case of what if. Fifth, claims management. Whereas risk financing is about managing the financial impact, claims are about managing the harm done. When the loss occurs, a claim may be filed to recover damages. This can involve evaluating claims made by individuals or organizations for damages, losses, or injuries, determining their validity, and ensuring proper compensation or settlement. When you are able to identify risk, important is to bring these principles to life situations. Risk management professionals constantly monitoring their environment for new potential dangers, measure the efficiency of accurate risk mitigation techniques, and based on the last findings, keep the control in check. When you are using the right risk management techniques, it helps to reduce fear, because you know that you are well protected against negative outcomes. To have appropriate risk management is not always the answer to fight fear, because it appears in plain life situations. When fear and anxiety becomes a pattern in our lives, they become a problem. When you face a problem in your life, you're not going to ignore it. You're going to fix the problem as soon as you can. So same situation with fear. When fearfulness causes harm to your physical and mental stability, and you find yourself avoiding things that might create more fear, don't ignore it. Highly recommend to use following 6 steps to overcome fear. Learn about your fear. First step can be the hardest one, but it's absolutely necessary. You can overcome fear that remains hidden in the dusty regions of your subconscious. You must face it. When you turn towards your fear rather than away from it, you notice things about your fear that you didn't know before. This awareness can help you to overcome it. When you are feeling more relaxed, take some time to think about the way you feel when you are afraid and how this makes you behave. Try to record any pattern or action you notice. In this way you can learn about your fear and to notice what makes you feel feared. Remember, it is in our subconscious mind, and it's not that simple to notice it. Most importantly, learning all about your fear gives you an idea how to counter it. and be alert to potential threats. Use your brain in positive ways. An imagination is a wonderful thing. It gives you power, creativity, and the ability to think outside the box. Unfortunately, an active imagination can be a harmful tool when it causes you to think about the negative things. Your imagination can magnify your fears, making your situation seem much worse than it actually is. Instead of letting imagination lead you down the dark corridors of your fear, purposely use it to overcome it. For example, if you fear losing money, remember that money is just a paper and your life won't stop if it's happen. Rather, you get experience and can learn from it. Experience is way more valuable. Peace you experience in your imagined scenario can actually help you get through the actual ordeal more peacefully. Use your brain in different way than usual. Your fear and anxiety arise of a central part of your brain, and they allow emotions to overcome rational thought. When you feel your fearful symptoms coming forth, try to use rational part of your brain. Think about numbers, for instance. A nurse in a clinic might ask a patient to rate his pain from scale 1 to 10. Use the scale for your anxiety, how anxious you are when 1 is perfectly calm and 10 is your very worst symptom. Stop and analyze. Work on lowering that number. Practice mindfulness. You've heard about mindfulness, but what exactly is it? Mindfulness is a passive thinking activity that allows you to become more aware of your fear. We all learned before, awareness helps you overcome your fear and anxiety. When you recognize your fear symptoms arising, sit down and think about what is happening to you. Observe the symptoms as they arise. Don't do anything about it. Just sit and keep track of yourself as the moment continues. Being passive raises your self-awareness, and it prevents you from doing typical things you do when you experience fear. It helps you get out of a rut. Use nature. Try going for a walk outside or any other activity in fresh air. Nature calms people, reducing stress levels and changing moods from anxious to relaxed. Plus, the physical activity of walking or jogging outdoors requires us to use our brains differently, which can cause switch from irrational fearful thoughts to clearer thinking what can help you to overcome your fear. Lastly, eliminate fear by conscious mind. Fear is a strong emotions and action state is in our subconscious mind. Subconscious mind, part of our minds that makes decisions without our needing to actively think about them. Therefore, you need to eliminate fear by conscious mind, which is our logical and critical thinking. By following these guideline suggestions, you should and will be able to deal with fear and greed. Remember, balanced decisions making is key to protecting both our financial health and overall well-being. That would be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I hope it was worth of your time, and you found it useful. Consider subscribing to this channel, and your like would be much appreciated.